What happens when two powerhouse women collide on live television and one of them refuses to back down from what she believes is right? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that had everyone talking, where Jennifer Lopez found herself in the crosshairs of a heated exchange that would change everything. This isn't just another celebrity feud. This is about standing up for what you believe in, even when the cameras are rolling and millions are watching. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below, because you won't believe what unfolds. The studio lights were blazing hot that Tuesday morning as Jennifer Lopez settled into the guest chair on The View. She had come prepared to discuss her latest projects, her upcoming tour, and maybe share some insights about her journey in the entertainment industry. What she didn't expect was to walk into what felt like an interrogation disguised as an interview. Whoopi Goldberg, sitting in her familiar spot at the head of the table, had that look in her eyes that the regular viewers knew all too well. It was the look that said she had something on her mind, and she wasn't going to let it slide. The other co-hosts seemed to sense the tension building, exchanging glances as they shuffled their note cards. So, Jennifer, Whoopi began, her voice carrying that authoritative tone that had become her trademark. Let's talk about your recent comments regarding working mothers in Hollywood. You said something that I found quite interesting. Jennifer shifted slightly in her seat, maintaining her composure. She had expected questions about her work, but the way Whoopi phrased this felt loaded. I simply shared my experience about balancing motherhood and career demands. I think it's important for women to support each other in these challenges. Whoopi leaned forward, her expression growing more intense. But here's what bothers me about your statement. You talked about how difficult it is to be a working mother, but you have nannies, personal assistants, and a whole team of people helping you. How can you relate to the single mother working 2 jobs just to make ends meet? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jennifer could feel the shift in the room's energy. This wasn't going to be the friendly promotional interview she had anticipated. I understand that I'm privileged, and I've never claimed otherwise. But that doesn't invalidate the emotional challenges that come with being away from your children for work, regardless of your circumstances. Oh, please, Whoopi interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Let's be real here. You're talking about missing bedtime stories while flying in private jets. Meanwhile, there are mothers who can't even afford bedtime stories because they're working night shifts. It's tone deaf. Jennifer felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice steady. I think you're misunderstanding what I was trying to say. I wasn't comparing my struggles to those of women with fewer resources. I was simply sharing that working mothers at every level face emotional challenges when it comes to balancing career and family. Whoopi sat back with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. So, you're saying your emotional struggle of missing your kids while you're on a movie set getting paid millions is the same as a woman who has to choose between buying groceries and paying for childcare? The tension in the studio was palpable. Now, the other co-hosts looked uncomfortable, unsure whether to jump in or let this play out. Jennifer could see the cameras focused on her, waiting for her response. She knew that whatever she said next would be scrutinized and replayed countless times. That's not what I said, and you know it, Jennifer replied, her voice gaining strength. What I said was that all working mothers deal with guilt and challenges. I never said they were identical challenges, but apparently, according to you, because I have money, I'm not allowed to have feelings about missing important moments in my children's lives. Whoopi's eyes flashed. What I'm saying is that when you have a platform like yours, Maybe think about how your words sound to the millions of women who don't have the luxury of choice that you have. Maybe consider that your version of struggle isn't really struggle at all. Jennifer leaned forward now, matching Whoopi's energy. So, because I've been successful, I should stay silent about the challenges I face as a mother. I should pretend that the guilt doesn't exist because other people have it worse. That's not how support works, Whoopi. That's how we silence each other. Support, Whoopi laughed. But there was no humor in it. You want to talk about support. How? About supporting the conversation by acknowledging your privilege instead of playing the victim. How about using your platform to highlight the real struggles instead of making it all about you? The studio fell silent except for the hum of the cameras and equipment. Jennifer could feel her heart racing, but she wasn't about to back down. Not when she felt like her integrity as a mother was being questioned on national television. I do acknowledge my privilege constantly, but I refuse to apologize for sharing my authentic experience as a working mother. If that makes you uncomfortable, that says more about you than it does about me, Jennifer said, her voice clear and unwavering. Whoopi's face darkened. Excuse me, what exactly does that say about me? Jennifer looked directly at her. It says that you're more interested in tearing down successful women than actually supporting the conversation about working mothers. It says that you think there's only room for one type of struggle to be valid, and that's dangerous thinking. The other co-hosts finally tried to intervene. Ladies, maybe we should. One of them started, but Whoopi cut her off with a sharp look. No, let Jennifer finish. I want to hear what else she thinks she knows about me, Whoopi said, her voice dripping with challenge. Jennifer took a deep breath. She could walk this back, apologize, and try to smooth things over. But something inside her refused to back down from what she believed was right. I think you've built a career on being the voice of reason and standing up for women. But right now, you're doing the opposite. You're using your position to shame another woman for sharing her truth. And that's not the Whoopi I grew up respecting. The words hit the room like thunder. Whoopi's face went through a range of emotions before settling on something cold and calculating. My truth, your truth, is complaining about first world problems to women who are fighting real battles every day. Your truth is self-indulgent and out of touch. Jennifer felt something snap inside her. My truth is that I love my children and I struggle with being away from them just like every other working mother. If you can't understand the basic human emotion because of the number in my bank account, then maybe you're the one who's out of touch. Whoopi stood up so quickly, her chair scraped against the floor. How dare you sit in my studio and tell me I'm out of touch? Do you know what I've been through? Do you know what I've fought for? Jennifer remained seated, but her voice rose to match Whoopi's energy. I know exactly what you fought for, which is why I'm so disappointed that you're choosing to fight against me instead of fighting for the conversation that actually matters. The studio erupted in a chaos of voices as the other co-hosts tried desperately to regain control of the situation. But it was too late. The line had been crossed and there was no going back. Whoopi pointed a finger at Jennifer, her face flushed with anger. You don't get to come into my house and lecture me about disappointment. You don't get to sit there in your designer clothes and tell me how to support women. I've been supporting women since before you knew what a camera was. Jennifer stood up now, meeting Whoopi's challenge head on. Then act like it. Stop tearing me down for sharing my experience and start building up the conversation that we should be having about all working mothers. The confrontation had reached a boiling point, with both women standing face to face across the table, neither willing to back down. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every word, every expression, every moment of this unprecedented clash of wills that was about to get even more intense. The producers behind the cameras were frantically signaling to cut to commercial, but Whoopi wasn't having it. She waved them off with a dismissive gesture, her eyes never leaving Jennifer's face. The power dynamic in the room had shifted completely, and it was clear that this was no longer about working mothers or privilege. This had become personal. "You know what your problem is, Jennifer," Whoopi said, her voice dropping to a dangerously low tone. "You think because you've sold some records and made some movies, you understand the real world. But you live in a bubble, and that bubble has made you blind to how ridiculous you sound." Jennifer's composure finally cracked just slightly. My problem is that I came here expecting a conversation between two professional women, and instead, I'm getting lectured by someone who apparently thinks she's the only person allowed to have an opinion." On this show, the other co-hosts looked like they wanted to disappear into their chairs. One of them tried again to redirect the conversation. "Maybe we should take a step back," and she began, but Whoopi whipped around to face her. "No, we're not taking a step back. This is exactly the kind of conversation we need to have. Jennifer wants to talk about authentic experiences. Let's talk about authentic experiences." Whoopi turned back to Jennifer, her finger pointing accusingly. "Let's talk about how you've reinvented yourself more times than Madonna. And now you want to play the struggling mother card." Jennifer's eyes flashed with genuine anger now. "Reinvented myself? You mean evolved? You mean grown? You mean refused to be put in a box by people like you who think they get to decide who I am and what I'm allowed to feel? People like me?" Whoopi's voice rose to a near shout. "What exactly do you mean by people like me, Jennifer? Because that sounds like you're about to say something you really shouldn't say on national television." The studio fell deadly silent. Jennifer realized how her words might have sounded, but she wasn't backing down now. "I mean people who use their platform to tear others down instead of building them up. I mean people who think they're the gatekeepers of who gets to speak their truth and who doesn't. I mean people who have forgotten what it's like to support other women instead of attacking them." Whoopi laughed, but it was sharp and cutting. "Oh, that's rich, coming from someone who's built her entire career on being whatever men wanted her to be. You want to talk about authentic? Let's talk about how you've changed your entire persona to match whoever you were dating at the time." The attack was personal now, and everyone in the studio knew it. Jennifer's face went pale, then flushed with anger. "How dare you bring my personal relationships into this? How dare you try to shame me for my past when you know nothing about what I've been through?" "I know what everyone knows," Whoopi shot back. "I know you've been married how many times. I know you've had more public breakups than some people have birthdays, so don't lecture me about authenticity when your whole life has been performed for the cameras." Jennifer took a step closer to the table, her hands shaking slightly with rage. "My personal life is not your business, and it certainly doesn't invalidate my feelings as a mother. You're so desperate to attack me that you're willing to drag my children into this by attacking their mother. That's low, even for you." "Low for me," Whoopi's voice cracked with indignation. "You don't know me well enough to know what's low for me. What's low is sitting in my studio, in my chair, and telling me I don't know how to support women. What's low is playing the victim when you have everything most women could only dream of." Jennifer's voice was steady now, but there was steel in it. "What I have is irrelevant to this conversation. What matters is that you're using your position of power to bully me because I shared my experience as a working mother. You're proving exactly why women don't speak up more often, because this is what happens when they do. Bully you, Whoopi threw her head back and laughed bitterly. Honey, if this is bullying to you, then you really don't understand what real women go through. This is a conversation. This is me holding you accountable for your words. This is you. Grandstanding, Jennifer fired back. This is you making yourself the star of the show by attacking your guest. This is you forgetting that there are cameras rolling and people watching who are seeing exactly who you really are underneath all that pretense of being the wise, supportive mentor. The words hit their mark. Whoopi's face went through a series of expressions before settling on something cold and furious. Who I really am. Let me tell you who I really am. I'm someone who's earned her place at this table through decades of real work, real struggle, and real accomplishment. I'm not some manufactured pop star who thinks she can waltz in here and school me about women's issues. Jennifer stepped back as if she'd been slapped. Manufactured. Is that what you think of me? Is that how you see my 25 years in this industry? Is that how you dismiss every woman who doesn't fit your narrow definition of what success should look like? I see someone who's had every advantage, every opportunity, every door open for her, and yet still wants to complain, Whoopi said, her voice dripping with disdain. I see someone who thinks her problems matter more than everyone else's because she's famous. You see what you want to see, Jennifer replied, her voice growing stronger with each word. You see what fits your narrative. You can't accept that maybe, just maybe, you're wrong about this. You can't accept that maybe you're the one who's out of line here. Whoopi slammed her hand on the table, making everyone in the studio jump. Out of line. This is my line. This is my show. This is my table. And I decide what crosses the line here. The room erupted in chaos as the other co-hosts finally found their voices, all trying to speak at once. But Jennifer's voice cut through the noise, clear and unwavering. Your show, your table, your rules. I get it. But you know what you can't control? You can't control the fact that millions of people just watched you attack a guest for sharing her truth. You can't control the fact that they saw you use your power to try to silence someone instead of supporting the conversation. Whoopi's eyes were blazing now. Silence you? If I wanted to silence you, this interview would have been over 10 minutes ago. The fact that you're still sitting here, running your mouth, proves that I'm not trying to silence you. I'm trying to educate. You educate me. Jennifer's voice rose to match Whoopi's intensity. By attacking my character, by dismissing my experiences, by bringing up my personal life to shame me. That's not education. That's assassination. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Whoopi's face went white, then red with fury. Assassination. Did you just accuse me of character assassination on live television? Jennifer looked directly into Whoopi's eyes, unflinching. If the shoe fits, the studio fell into a stunned silence. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of this unprecedented confrontation. The other co-hosts looked like they were watching a car crash in slow motion, unable to look away, but horrified by what they were seeing. Whoopi stood there for a long moment, her chest rising and falling with barely controlled rage. When she finally spoke, her voice was deadly calm. You know what, Jennifer? I think this interview is over. Jennifer remained standing, her chin raised defiantly. Is that what you do when someone stands up to you? You end the conversation. You shut it down when it doesn't go your way. I shut it down when my guest forgets where she is and who she's talking to. Whoopi replied, her voice getting louder with each word. I shut it down when someone sits at my table and disrespects me in my own house. I haven't disrespected you, Jennifer said firmly. I've disagreed with you. I've defended myself. I've refused to be bullied. If you call that disrespect, then maybe you need to take a long look in the mirror and ask yourself why you can't handle being challenged. The final words were like gasoline on a fire. Whoopi's composure completely shattered, and what happened next would be replayed on social media for weeks to come. Whoopi's face contorted with rage as she pointed directly at Jennifer, her voice reaching a level that made everyone in the studio recoil. You want to talk about looking in the mirror? Look in the mirror and see someone who thinks she can come into my studio and tell me how to do my job. Look in the mirror and see someone so entitled that she thinks her celebrity gives her the right to lecture me. Right. Jennifer stood her ground, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around her. My celebrity. This has nothing to do with celebrity and everything to do with basic human decency. You've spent the last 20 minutes trying to tear me down instead of having the conversation we came here to have. Human decency. Whoopi's laugh was harsh and bitter. You want to talk about human decency? Human decency is not coming on someone's show and telling them they don't know how to support women. Human decency is not sitting at my table and calling me a bully because I asked you tough questions. The other co-hosts were frantically trying to get the situation under control, but both women were beyond listening to anyone else in the room. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every explosive moment of this unprecedented meltdown. Tough questions. Jennifer's voice cracked with disbelief. Is that what you call bringing up my personal relationships? Is that what you call attacking my authenticity? Those weren't tough questions, Whoopi. That was a personal attack disguised as journalism. Whoopi moved around the table now, getting closer to Jennifer, her finger still pointing accusingly. Everything is personal with you people. Everything is an attack. You can't handle being held accountable, so you cry victim and make it about feelings instead of facts. You people, Jennifer's eyes widened. What exactly do you mean by you people, Whoopi? Because that sounds like you're about to say something you really shouldn't say on national television. The irony of Jennifer throwing Whoopi's earlier words back at her was not lost on anyone in the room. Whoopi's face went through a range of emotions as she realized what she had said. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. I mean celebrities who think they're untouchable. I mean people who live in ivory towers and think they understand regular people's problems. I mean people like you who come on my show and think you can manipulate the narrative. Jennifer took a step forward, closing the distance between them. Manipulate the narrative. The only person manipulating anything here is you. You've turned what should have been a supportive conversation about working mothers into a personal attack on my character, my relationships, and my authenticity. And you've done it all while hiding behind the pretense of asking tough questions. Whoopi's voice reached a crescendo. I don't hide behind anything. I've been real from day one. I've earned the right to ask whatever questions I want to ask. This is my show, and if you don't like how I run it, there's the door. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Jennifer looked at Whoopi for a long moment, then at the cameras, then at the other co-hosts who were sitting in stunned silence. When she spoke, her voice was calm but filled with disappointment. You're right, Whoopi. It is your show, and you've just shown everyone exactly what kind of show it really is. You've shown them that when a guest doesn't say what you want them to say, you attack them. You've shown them that your idea of supporting women is tearing them down when they don't fit your agenda. Whoopi's eyes were blazing with fury. My agenda. My agenda is truth. My agenda is keeping it real. My agenda is not letting people come on here and spew nonsense without being challenged. Your agenda, Jennifer said, her voice growing stronger, is being right at any cost. Even if it means destroying someone in the process. Even if it means forgetting everything you claim to stand for. Even if it means showing the world that the Whoopi Goldberg who preaches about supporting women is just an act. The accusation hit like a slap. Whoopi stood there for a moment, trembling with rage before exploding. An act? You think I'm an act? You think everything I've built, everything I've stood for, everything I've fought for is an act? How dare you? How dare you sit there and question my authenticity when yours changes with every relationship? Jennifer's composure finally cracked completely. Stop bringing up my relationships. Stop trying to shame me for my personal life. Stop using my past to try to win an argument you've already lost. Lost, Whoopi shrieked. I haven't lost anything. You're the one who came on my show unprepared for real questions. You're the one who can't handle being challenged. You're the one who's about to storm out because you can't take the heat. Jennifer looked around the studio one more time at the cameras still rolling, at the stunned faces of the other co-hosts, at the crew members who had stopped pretending to work and were openly staring at the confrontation. When she looked back at Whoopi, her voice was quiet but filled with steel. I'm not storming out, Whoopi, but I'm not staying here to be verbally abused either. I came here to have a conversation about working mothers, and instead I got ambushed by someone who's more interested in creating drama than actual dialogue. Whoopi stepped even closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Then leave, walk out. Show everyone what you really do when things don't go your way. Show them that when Jennifer Lopez doesn't get treated like royalty, she takes her ball and goes home. Jennifer picked up her purse and stood tall, looking directly at Whoopi. What I'm showing them is that I have enough self-respect not to stay somewhere I'm not welcome. What I'm showing them is that no woman should have to endure what you've put me through here today, regardless of how much money she has or how famous she is. The studio was dead silent, except for the hum of equipment and the barely audible whispers of crew members. Whoopi stood there, her chest heaving, her eyes still blazing with anger when she spoke. Her voice was filled with venom. Fine, leave, but don't expect to come crawling back here when your next project needs promoting. Don't expect to sit at this table again after what you've done here today. Jennifer paused at those words, turning back to face Whoopi one last time. Her voice was steady, dignified, and final. I wouldn't come back here if you paid me. This show used to stand for something. It used to be about lifting women up, about having real conversations, about supporting each other. But you've turned it into your personal platform for tearing people down when they don't agree with you. Whoopi's face was purple with rage now. Get out. Get out of my studio. Security. The call for security was the final straw. Jennifer looked at Whoopi with a mixture of pity and disgust. I don't need security to escort me out, Whoopi. I can walk out on my own with my dignity intact. Can you say the same? As Jennifer walked toward the exit, Whoopi shouted after her, Don't you walk away from me. We're not done here. Come back here and finish this conversation. Jennifer stopped at the studio door and turned back one final time. Her voice carried across the silent studio, clear and unwavering. The conversation ended the moment you chose to attack me instead of listening to me. The conversation ended when you decided your ego was more important than the topic we came here to discuss. This conversation has been over for a long time. Whoopi, you're just too angry to realize it. With that, Jennifer Lopez walked out of the View studio, leaving behind a stunned silence and a host who was still shaking with rage. Whoopi stood there for several long moments, her fists clenched before finally turning to the cameras. "Well," she said, her voice still trembling with anger, "I guess we all just saw Jennifer Lopez's true colors. When things get real, when the questions get tough, some people just can't handle it." But the damage was done. The cameras had captured everything. The audience had seen everything. And what they saw was a confrontation that revealed far more about the host than it did about the guest, who walked away with her head held high. The credits would roll on one of the most explosive episodes in The View's history, but the real story was just beginning. Because sometimes, when two strong women collide, only one walks away with their integrity intact. What did you think about Jennifer's decision to walk out instead of continuing the fight? Drop a comment below and make sure to subscribe for more stories that go behind the scenes of Hollywood's biggest moments.